Any Busu again. I have decided to do a video for the final presentation, and this is part two. So I did the annotated bibliography of several articles, and my question is, how can we decolonize? And I think one of the first ways to decolonize is to decolonize yourself. And there are multiple ways that one can do this. For me personally, I've chosen to live my life, follow the red road. I live by the grandfather teachings. I try to embody them in everything that I do. In every day, I offer prayers. I give thanks. Um, and I feel that these things are so important. I watched a movie yesterday called Juliana and the Medicine Fish. And it's a movie that takes place in Ontario about an Indigenous family who has a lodge and they're about to lose it to the bank. And they have a huge fishing ceremony, a huge fishing uh, tournament. And if whoever wins $1 million. And there's this giant fish in the lake that is supposed to be the fish, the mother of all the fish, and she takes care of everything. And she is the magic fish. And so this little girl loses her mom and ends up catching the magic fish. And along the way, she has an encounter with an elder. And the elder teaches her the ways that she can catch the fish, but by never by telling her, only by showing her and asking her questions. One of my favorite scenes is he pulls up an so the girl's got a box of tackle and she brings it to the elder, who is her friend's grandfather, and says, "Okay, so how can I catch the big fish and win the prize? Because $1 million would save the lodge for her family." And so the elder asks her, well, what would you eat? You need to learn how to read the weather and the bugs that are out, and then you know what kind of fish you're catching based on the bugs that are out. And he points out, if you were a big fish, what would you eat? Would you be happy with a little bug? And the girl's like, no. And so then he points out and he says, well, what would you want to eat? And he finds this, duck lure that he had made for her grandfather 40 years ago. And it's just the process of the little girl understanding that she wants to know how to do something, but she doesn't know how. And the elder isn't just going to say, okay, well, here, this is the right lure, go and do it. He has her actually work through it in her mind, where she has to take the steps so that she can understand where the how she got from A to B. Um, it wasn't just, okay, here, grab that, go away now, which is how I feel a lot of the way that our decolonial or decolonizing has become. Is it's okay, here, we apologized. Yep. All right. So, Harper's apology, that should be good enough. I don't know about you, but I've apologized to many a broken dish and I've never seen it get back together. So an apology doesn't fix everything. Also, from the articles that I read, one of them made an excellent point that the apology implies that all of these things happened in the past and it was then, not now, and that the colonialism and the colonization and the constant less than-ing of, I don't even know if that's not a word, but uh, just the way that is indigenous culture is we're only allowed to be indigenous in ways that are appropriate to the powers that be still. So, for instance, they've decided what we're allowed to fight for and what parts of indigenous culture they like. So, for instance, they are okay with some of the ceremonies, So we're allowed to practice some of the ceremonies. They were not okay with smudging up until recently in schools, and but now they've decided that that's okay. So we're still working on a system that is very, very deeply colonized, and it's not us saying, okay, these are our rights as Indigenous people and as Canadians, but that we are still functioning under what the powers that be will allow us to do. So we're still, in effect, the children. And so oh, my dog has come to join us. Hi, Grammy. The, sorry, I got lost there. The best way to decolonize is to decolonize yourself within your brain. And you can start with little things. Like, for instance, even just start shopping online or in person, go to a powwow, go to any, well, we can't now, but you could buy online. All of my Christmas presents this year are Indigenous, either retailers or individuals that make things. And I'm very much trying to support Indigenous cultures. And I feel that that's one of the ways that we can do that is, eat at Indigenous restaurants. The same way that the Black Lives Matter people are saying support Black businesses, support Indigenous ones. I buy Indigenous first, Canadian Indigenous first, and then Canadian made, and then Indigenous from other countries. But I have to make sure that it's fair trade. At the end of my PowerPoint, I'm going to list a couple websites that are excellent for shopping Indigenous if you would like to do that. I highly recommend it. I have some beautiful, beautiful things. I bought a fabulous winter coat. It's from Victoria's Arctic Fashion in Nunavut, and it's got seal and Arctic fox on it, and it is beautiful and handmade. So I feel very good about that. I wear, Manitoba mucklucks. This isn't just me going, yeah, rah, rah, I'm supporting Indigenous culture, but it isn't difficult, is what I'm saying. You could buy so many t-shirts, even just a poster online, because the more that we support these things and then people see me wearing them and they're like, oh, that's a beautiful coat, or those are beautiful mucklucks, or that's a beautiful pin because I bought some sealskin brooches as well. And then it opens a dialogue, which I find very useful. So anytime I try to wear seal as much as I can, because I want people to watch the film Angry Anouk. And I want them to ask, oh, well, I didn't think that, I didn't realize seal would feel like that. I've heard from a lot of people. And I recently bought a backpack from Greenland, which I thought was kind of cool because I don't ever expect to get to Greenland, but I wanted to get some sealskin fur and support the Indigenous people there because through this course, I've actually learned a lot more about the Inuit in Greenland and how Denmark is not very nice to them, but which we knew. But the colonialism is widespread. It's overarching. It's permeated into everything, from even some of the articles that I read. Um, at the end of the poem that I read in the last video, the author says, oh, sorry, my phone is dying. Ah. The author says, have to know how to live with the guilt of having credentials, a secure job, and the awareness of compliance with a rigid system built on the broken backs and wounded souls of your family members. That's very true because I was with my nephews a couple of years ago at Christmas, and I said, the four of us in this room have beaten the odds in that we all have post-secondary education. So we are all our ancestors' wildest nightmares. Sorry, not nightmares. In a way, probably, but dreams as well, because we are all, educated appropriately, which means we were all able to access higher income jobs and a better lifestyle, which is amazing and fantastic. And, we all worked for it and we earned it, but we were privileged to be able to access those opportunities, whereas a lot of our fellow Indigenous people are not. I look at a lot of people in my band, and there's many who have post-secondary education, but it's still less than 4% in the entire country, I believe, which is shocking. And it's very like we need to really decolonize the education system as well, because some of these articles, the way that they're written is in such academia, and it's the language is so thick and colonial, and it doesn't need to be that way. It is unnecessarily complicated. And I believe that you could have, like, my favorite article of the whole of all the ones that I read was grafting indigenous ways of knowing onto non-indigenous ways of being, the underestimated challenges of a decolonial imagination. This was a great article, but this article was very dense in the language that the author chooses to use. He's also the one who wrote the poem, which is fascinating. So, on one hand, he criticizes the system, and on the other, he is actively engaging in continuing the oppression and the lack of uh, opportunity for people to be able to read this article. Because I gave it to one of my coworkers who's also in school, but not this academic. And he's just like, he couldn't be bothered. He's like, that's just way too heavy. Like, it's just it's very dense, and it's too much academic speak, and it doesn't need to be that way, because we can make things that are easier for everybody to understand, and they can be just as academically worthy while. All this would have taken was some rephrasing of some certain thing, of some certain sentences, you know, like, okay, for instance, he says, as a Cree scholar whose upbringing was outside middle class sensibilities. Not a difficult sentence, but you could have said, as a Cree scholar who grew up poor or whatever, Um, it's just that's not a great example, but I really think that it's unfortunate that so much academia is still excluding so many people that could value from the lessons in it. Uh, I also believe that supporting local tribes and community centers is an excellent way to decolonize. Just go and hang out, ask if you can help, see what you can do to volunteer, see if anyone wants you around. Um, the one thing I would suggest to anybody who's looking to volunteer is ask them what they need, because you may come with your ideas of what people need, and it may not be what they need. Everyone has different needs, and so the best thing I would suggest for everybody looking to decolonize is to listen, and listen first. There's the I remember an elder saying, we were given two eyes and two ears and one mouth. Two eyes, so you look twice as hard. Two ears, so you listen twice as hard. And one mouth, so you think hard before you speak out of it. So that's something I very much try to live with. I'm very upset about the COVID money and the lack of help for the more than 60 communities that still have boil water advisories. Yet, I know people that make more money than I do that collect the CERB and all of that. But, whatever. Apparently, the government doesn't see our health as a national emergency, just, I don't know, something they just keep brushing aside. And I fail to understand how that is still continuing, and the government seems to be able to not have an answer for that. Um, One of the things that I really value about the Indigenous movement and the decolonization movement is it's about understanding, developing an understanding. Not we don't want people to say you're bad. Like, no, we're not here to say bad anybody. It's okay. So this sucked. Let's not do that anymore. Let's all try and do this because this is better. I really believe that if we personally just do small things to decolonize every day, um, smile at some homeless people that you see, because you know what? That takes nothing. And at least for me, where I live, it's a large number of Indigenous because there are multiple Indigenous community centers around here. So, and I hang out and I talk, and it's fascinating. Like, they have the best stories when, like, if you actually sit down and talk with a bunch of homeless people, it's really interesting. Like, really interesting. I love it. I actually have made friends with several. So, but it's great. Anyway, but that's another example of, so my friend Judy, I talked to her about what I'm taking in school, and she said, "Oh, I'd love to read some of the articles." And I'm like, "Absolutely." But I can't give her some because that would just make her feel stupid, which would not be fair. And I don't like that the articles are written that way. I understand in order to fit into academia, you have to, which is why I'm never going for a PhD, because I don't think I could do that much more school, to be honest, in this colonial system. I think part of the reason I took so long to do this assignment was that it felt very colonial to me, more so than any of the other ones. I read the articles and I really enjoyed the articles. I really did not want to write the annotated bibliography. I don't know why. I really felt it was too colonial. I can talk at length, ad nauseum, about all of the fabulous ways that I decolonize every day, from watching APTN to smudging every day to just living my life in a good way and being nice and remembering to be humble and care and believe and love and all the good things. Uh, I believe the teachers should definitely take professional development opportunities when offered. I have been attending many lately, and they have all been fabulous. I recently attended an outdoor education one, which there is a video on YouTube for. So, Jennifer, if you'd like it, I will send the link. It was very interesting. And I think I would really like to get more into the outdoor education aspect of the decolonizing, because now I have my fabulous winter coat from Nunavut, which honestly, I went dog sledding in Alberta in that coat, and I was toasty, warm, so cozy. My feet were frozen little ice blocks because I hadn't purchased mucklucks yet. I had Doc Martens on, and let me tell you, not the right boots for dog sledding. No. Anyway, Jennifer, I really want to thank you for everything for this course. I hope to have another one with you. Maybe you could be my mentor or whatever for the capstone project or something. But I thoroughly enjoyed the course and I loved all the material. It was fabulous. And chi miigwech for everything. Miigwech.